For 40 years, I've walked the line between worlds and am well versed in death. But I want to have faith in humans. Give me something to believe in. Earth below me, sky above me, fire within me. Brought to you by UPRN Network. I'm Trish Moe, and this is The Missing Piece. Thank you, Brian. I'm gonna have to go over everything all over again. Now that can you hear me now? I swear. Everything good? Anyways, as I said, thank you for joining me. It's been a minute. I have been on the road, and I don't know why my face is like glowing red, and then I've got this green background. I'm not at home. I'm still traveling, so um, it's working. Thank you so much, Brian. So, and I was even going to broadcast on Parapost Network tonight, but obviously what I was muted, as is, the craziness in my life. I had to postpone my broadcast 5 minutes because um, there was this like clawing at the window um, outside of the office that I'm in. I mean, it sounded like something like out of a horror movie, and it was a giant cat that made my dogs go insane. I mean, but it sounded like some giant beast outside the window, and that that caused a whole issue here. So, but what I was saying, I have been on the road for a few weeks. Um, I guess none of you heard that. I'm your host Trish. This is the Missing Piece, and we're broadcasting live out of New Orleans, 105.3. I am, and I also thanked Carnation. I remember that, and the network for sponsoring me. But I was saying that I've been traveling for a little bit, and I've come across some. I mean, I knew that Kansas was a little bit different and crazy, and um, but there are some really spooky things in Kansas. So that's kind of something that I wanted to go over. Um, But how have you all been? Gosh, I've missed everyone. It's been a while. I got some really sweet um, messages while I was gone because I don't get very good internet service. I mean, obviously, everybody has internet service out in the sticks, but depending on the day, if a big tree's in the way of the towers or whatever, sometimes I don't get very good signal right now. So um, next week I will be back to having guests on occasionally, things like that. Next week will be Michael Temura. I'm super excited about him coming on because um, he's the only person I've ever. I was intuitively led to watching an interview that someone else was doing of him, and he's the only other person I have ever seen that had some some of the same some similar near death experiences as I have. So that's exciting. And he has been sick, very sick off and on, doesn't really do that many interviews anymore. So it's super exciting that he agreed to with me because I've never met anybody who explains dying like I do in the same nonchalant way. Oh, thanks, Brian. I missed you as well. I haven't heard from anyone. It's like I mean, I did. So everybody knows I was kind of in this phase where even with Facebook, um, I was basically shadow banned for a while because aside from and it wasn't just because I changed days and times, going back to Tuesdays. It started before that actually, where I would be getting. Um, like on Facebook, for instance, if somebody messaged me, just my personal account, I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't even see it for days. I wouldn't um email, same thing. I still can't access uh my main well, it's on this side. My main website, trishmo.com, because I have to get permission. Um, they I don't know. I was locked out of my own domain. So 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 that's being worked on. I still post that because like 90% of you all listen on the archives. And so it will be working before the end of the month. They promised me that. Wix did anyways. Um so that's one thing. Yeah, I just started encountering all these problems. People started messaging me like, where did you go? Did you Um, and of course, numerous people, even people in public, all the time ask me if I think that I have been hexed or cursed or something of that nature. So, um, I mean, who knows? But those things, I won't say they only have power over you if you believe in them. That's not true because they can absolutely things like that can absolutely have power over a person, whether they believe in it or not. But I will say that so does your will. Your willpower, your own strength has the same amount of, well, if not more, given what you feed into is where your energy goes. Or what's the saying? Where your energy goes, where your energy flows is where your energy goes. So if you're feeding into all the negativity and the BS on that aspect, then obviously that's what's going to happen. Otherwise, um, things that affect you in that way will for a little bit, but not permanently. Like nothing can ever permanently affect you in those ways. What I've also realized is that it's a strange thing that's happening right now with the world because and it's been a theory of many people's that with this like multiverse that we have, um, that's kind of starting to and regardless of whose fault it was that it started kind of collapsing in on itself. Maybe we reached that 12th level that we weren't supposed to go to, and all of it started collapsing. Maybe something was unlocked, and um, all of a sudden, all these other beings can come through. Who knows? Who knows? Like, I don't think it's necessarily um, anyone's fault more so than something that's happening um, collectively. But it, it's something that's I don't think any of us thought that this would happen in our lifetime. I don't think that any of us thought this would be a our current reality. Um, and it is, and so we just have to um, embrace it. And I'm gonna head over also on Facebook because let's see, I can't because I otherwise I can't see those of you that are messaging me or chatting in on my group page or on Facebook. I can't see what you're saying. So let me go over there. Okay. I so Brian, yours showed up, and Francisco, how's it going? Um, yours did not. Yours still shows Facebook users. So, um, but thank you both for joining. Um, let me head. See, I'm getting better. I'm getting better at this navigating the whole um, StreamYard, maybe kind of. so, um, so one thing also I was going to talk about tonight, aside from my crazy, I want to be able to show you all one of the places I stayed was it's a little crazy because it reminded me of the what's the Shining Hotel in in Colorado. Um, oh my gosh, what is it called? Who, everybody knows that. What's the name of the Shining Hotel? And I know it too. I mean it's called the Shining, but it's the hotel name is oh my goodness. And I don't know that like that wouldn't yes, thank you, Brian, the Stanley Hotel. So I was at this place and, and of course it was super creepy, but um that's not why this was odd. What was odd about it, um, were it's one of those places like they had an elevator, but I didn't want to use it because I was afraid it might break down. But the stairwells, all the lights were flickering in both stairwells, which okay, maybe for me that might be normal sometimes, but this was like all of them. And then um one day we were there, we saw an albino. I wish I could have gotten a picture of it. We saw an albino turkey. An albino turkey in a courtyard of a hotel in the middle of the city. No, it was not their pet. They knew nothing of it, as a matter of fact, and it just showed up. An albino turkey. I've never seen a pure white albino turkey in my entire life. And I've seen a lot of turkeys. Like I grew up in the mountains, we have turkeys. We have turkeys in the country. I've been around a lot of turkeys and this one was pure white and it was walking along this creek, which yes, that might be, but this wasn't a normal creek. This creek went into like the city sewers. This wasn't it wasn't like some peaceful flowing creek in the countryside. No, this was in the middle of Wichita. Like this was in the middle of the city. And there's an albino turkey in their courtyard. I don't know. I've tried to read up on what Brian said. Could it be good luck? Probably not with me. I've tried to read up on this and the meanings, and there's and across different cultures, seeing any albino animal or creature is a sign of it had different meanings across the board. Um, but One of them, that's a good question. Um, it said, let me pull it up again. um, what did it say? Oh, and then I have to show you all the hallways of this place too. Yeah, so a white or albino spirit animal tells you dramatic but positive changes are happening. And that's true, but that's always true in my life. But that doesn't I guess it's perspective. It's perspective because I should have recorded my entire trip. And then what you said, Brian, you all would be like, I wouldn't consider that good luck at all. I wouldn't consider it good luck. So the first night, we leave and um, there were, I don't even know, like I drove as far as I could and I head out of here and um, we start looking for a hotel. You always think when you come into a city, like there's hundreds of hotels, right? So you should be able to find something. Oh no, 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 not this girl. Oh no. So, and it was a full moon, of course. Um, and so y'all, I went to, so first of all, the first two I booked online. I booked online, right? Like Priceline was one, booking.com I think was another one. I'm not even gonna say what that's a whole other show if I got into Priceline and my beef with them right now. But so I book one on booking.com. I go into the hotel. I was like, thank goodness we finally, can stop and rest and everything. And I walk into the lobby and the lady at the desk said, I said, I made a reservation online. She says, I I'm sorry, we've been completely booked for 2 days now. We have zero vacancies. I'm like, oh, all right, okay. So she's like, I apologize. You'll have to contact the booking company that you went through online. So of course, they they uh they kept my I think I had paid for like 4 or 5 days at this specific hotel. And so they said it'll have to go to claims and then I'll have to talk to someone else and then they'll have to confirm with the hotel that I didn't actually stay there and it wasn't actually my fault before they could refund my money because of course I'd already paid for it. Okay, okay. So I go to another one that I booked also online, but through a different booking company, and I think that one was the Priceline. I go in there and this one was the kicker on this one. So the hotel itself was, I don't know, it was like $140 or something. I did it through Priceline and I was trying to find hotels that allow pets, right? Because I don't go anywhere without them. And so, um, hey, hey, Raymond. Hey, let's see who else joined us. Tanner, thank you all for joining. Um, You shoot. You know what, that we should do that sometime. I should have all of you together, just on like random chat in the, I mean on screen, like live, because nobody else would believe these things, right? So anyway, so here I am, the next one, and they tell me and Priceline does say, like, there might be added fees or something. Okay, I get that. I get that there's probably a pet deposit most places, right? But usually it's only like 50 to $100. Okay, that's fine. I get that. No, no. I walk into this place, and so the hotel, the hotel's like $140, and that was their sell price, right? So I was like, that's fine. Expected to pay another deposit for my animals. Okay. No, the guy said, um, there's going to be $100 deposit that we charge everyone. We charge $150 pet deposit, and then we also charge um, $30 per pet per day. Okay, so then that's already like twice, um, shoot, almost three times the amount of the hotel room itself. And I was like, Mm, yeah, I'm not like if I'm gonna be paying $400 or $500 a day for a hotel room, I'm not staying at one that's kind of sketchy, right? And I mean this was nice, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying if like if I was spending more money on a hotel room, then I would obviously expect I don't know, like bathrooms at work and things like that. So anyways, needless to say, I did not stay there. But here was my problem with it. They said because I did not cancel 24 hours before the reservation, I couldn't get a refund on that one. And I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't even make the reservation 20. I made the reservation in the parking lot and then I walked in the hotel. So, right? So there was that one. But I didn't stay there. I went to 22 hotels. Every one of them were booked. Every single one of them. We finally keep driving out of town. I didn't even know where I was at by this time. And I passed this bridge. It was Wolf Creek, which, I'm like, that's lucky, right? And of course, this is a small town like Podunk, middle of nowhere, right? I think I went to 3 or 4 hotels in that town alone before and they were all booked, and nobody knew what was going on too, which was the weird thing. Like everybody said, we have no idea why everything is booked. I was like, is there some, I don't know, something going on that I don't know about? Is there, this is it's crazy to me. And so I finally went to there were only 2 left in this town. I mean, the whole town only had, like, 5. I'd already been to the first 3. They were all, yeah, right? So, Brian, a butler, breakfast in bed, a massage daily better be included. Yes, I agree. A massage for the pets too. Yes. That's what I'm saying, but no, these weren't even, like they were just jacking up the prices because they heard that nobody else for, like, 3 or 400 miles had vacancies. So, they weren't really nice places is the thing, which is, what sucked about it. Um, so there were only 5 hotels in this town, and I'd already checked the first 3, and I go to the last one. Well, the second to the last, I take that back. I go to the second to the last one, and I'm like he said, "Well, we're completely full," and I was like, "Come on," because it said they did allow pets, and he said, except, he said, "I do have 1 room left." And I appreciated his honesty, actually. He said, "I will give it to you at a discount of $80 per night, but the toilet does not flush. But I'll also give you a plunger." And I'm like, so I have kids, right? I'm like, that's probably a bad idea. And and so I was like, "Thank you, but I guess I'll try the last one in the town, literally." And so we go to that one. They had 1 room left. 1 room. And so I took that room and then discovered the toilet in that room didn't work at all. So I should have taken the one that was like $100 less that he at least offered me a plunger, right? So that was my first night. Um aside from and there are so many, it's always interesting the people you meet when you're out traveling. I think that was the place that this man kept coming up and growling at the window, and I'm like, whatever. Um, yes, yes, Brian, they can do that when it's a monopoly because there's no other hotels with any rooms, apparently. So, but I should have taken the one for $80. They would at least giving me a discount for it. Is what I'm saying, like, and a plunger. Because the one I ended up taking was 145 with no plunger and no bathroom and, so but I wonder, since so many hotels were having that problem and not just in that town, I'm like, is that a full moon thing too? Or my dog, of course, or is that just overbooked hotels? I don't know. Um, so that was my first few days out and about, and then like we come across Oh my goodness, I should show you all. We come across the oh, I wonder why I can't see. I can see. See, I'm still only seeing some of the comments on Facebook. Anyways, we came across this. We're driving out in the middle of nowhere, and we come across a summer camp, right? Which, of course, I mean, I should have known because I have a T-shirt that says Camp Crystal Lake. Everybody, my horror flick fans, and Michael Myers, right? And so I'm wearing Camp Crystal Lake, and we come across. It was actually a really nice place, though. I would probably, um, be interested in like staying there, sending my kids there, maybe. I don't know. Um, but it was called Camp Chippewa, and I was like, wait a minute, where have I heard that from? Where have I heard this name, Camp Chippewa? And then it made me laugh because of the whole turkey thing in the first place, right? So we'd been to two different ones by this time, like the one that the toilet didn't flush and the one with the turkey. And Camp Chippewa was in this town, and I was like, the Adams family values, where where they go to that summer camp, and they they had the which never made sense to me. I'm like, if they're at a summer camp, why are they having? I think that was the one that they had the Thanksgiving um, like play or musical. Um, and it might have been the second. I don't remember if that was Adam's Family Values or the first one. It's probably the second one. But anyways, so we ran into Camp Chippewa, like the real life Camp Chippewa. And then I go to then we were at the hotel that was like the Shining Hotel, and I'm going to send that now because that's that's another one that's just insane. It scared me a little bit. I No, it didn't really scare me. It was just so this place had like multiple wings of, kind of like if you know the buildings that they used to build, if you know anything about architecture, the buildings they used to build that they called them like bat wing shaped, quite literally, because it had like a straight section, and then it had two long corridors that went out the other way. And so, oh, Raymond, Adam's Family Values. Thank you. Yeah, I knew it was one of them. Um, but that and the turkey, seeing the turkey, and I just think of, oh my gosh, Wednesday. It wasn't. What's the brother's name? He was dressed as a turkey. Um, and that's one of my favorite movies. I don't know why I don't know that, but um, that's exactly what it reminded what it reminded me of. And so after that, and then we stayed at the Shining Hotel. Pugsley, thank you. Yes, I'm forgetting literally everything tonight. Um, so there's all these, but what's interesting to me is this was like on the outskirts of Kansas and places I have never seen or heard of in my entire life. And I've lived here off and on, for gosh, like 20 years. Which I mean, most people would say, well, that's not surprising. Most people don't even know what's in their own backyard. I'm pretty good about like, I'm a historian, so I'm pretty good about trying to find all the major, um, well, not even the major. I try to find places that nobody knows about. They're like off the grid or that are kind of hidden and things like that. Um, so that was interesting, and I'm pulling up now the video actually of um this corridor. And the only reason that bothered me, I mean, as you all know, like I have a thing with electricity. I make tons of things. But this was the building doing this. This wasn't my fault. Of course, my lights flicker as soon as I say that. No, this really wasn't my fault. It was doing that before I got there. Um, so this one, and the funny thing was my daughter. So we come into this hotel that has that's funny. Um, be Raymond, because you're able to just spout off, um, random facts quickly. Um, but the interesting thing about this hotel, so there was the entryways, both of them, that were all the lights were, I mean, flashing, flashing. Like I couldn't look at them because I do certain things like that would probably cause me to have a seizure if I stared at it. Um, so that's how bad it was. And it was in both entryways. So it's not like I'm like, damn, does somebody need to change a light bulb? No, this was flashing, flashing. Like I I don't know. Surely they knew about it. surely, surely they knew that that was happening, or they had people tell them before, whatever. But so when we go into our room, aside from that happening, I had gotten a suite, and I thought that I requested, 2 beds, but I ended up getting, because in the suites they have like a separate room. I ended up getting a king size bed and just a couch, and I told my son, I was like, "Well, I guess you got the couch." And um my daughter, the first thing she says, it was one of those beds that it was just on like a platform, bed frame. So you couldn't see, under it or the bottom or anything. The first thing, she sits on the bed, she goes, this looks like one of those beds that somebody would hide a body in. And I'm like, what? Because um she doesn't know this, but that actually happened to some people we knew. I think it was in Vegas. They had stayed in a room that smelled. They didn't stay there. They were supposed to, and it smelled really really bad. They requested another one, and it ended up they found a body hidden between like the mattress and the box springs somehow. This one didn't have like box springs like that, but it did have the platform, and that's the first thing she said. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, if that was gonna happen, it would happen to us because that would be the room they would give me. And so and the other thing, we got the same room number at 3 different hotels. Completely, completely unplanned, obviously. Um, and so not to mention the first hotel we had a phone that didn't work and it had the wrong room number on it. So I don't know if that was a blessing or a curse, but so she says that, and then we go. One of the days we were there, I went to. I try not to venture too far away from hotels, especially like my animals were there, and I didn't want to leave them. But um, we went to a Walmart, and um, I was walking out, and I stopped and went directly to. They always have a board up of missing persons. A really big board of like missing children and stuff. And yes, I'm drawn to that sometimes due to being a medium and having those psychic abilities. To I used to do that and try to help locate people and kids and things like that. But I haven't done that in a long time. And for whatever reason, I was specifically drawn to this board and specifically to one girl. And I was like, I swear she looks like someone at the hotel. so um th- I'm telling y'all, this hotel looked like something that had like secret doors and there's something something really wrong with it. And so aside from that happening, um I wanted to go on my way back to a different part of the state. I wanted to go to, there's actually an entire airplane graveyard in Kansas that where they take all these airplanes that have crashed or they've just taken them out of service. And I guess a private person owns it, but you can actually go there and see all of these, and some of them are really famous. Um, it's really out in the middle of nowhere, but what's also out in the middle of nowhere is, which another one I didn't know about for a very long time after living in Kansas. There's a major penitentiary outside of, I believe it's down in like El Dorado. Um, they house some of the most dangerous uh, felons and stuff in the United States, which is, well, that's not surprising to me actually. There's been a lot of if you've ever seen something like if you've ever seen Supernatural, um I hadn't really ever even paid attention to that show for ever until people started saying that it was outside of, oh yeah. Yeah, I forgot about Leavenworth. Leavenworth's here also. That's the federal pen. Um but if you've ever seen Supernatural, it starts out there. Sam and what's his name? See, again. I'm so bad with them names. Um, but they actually come from outside of Lawrence, Kansas. Like that's where the whole demon scene and stuff. That's where it was supposed to be set. And so, if you think about Kansas and how many towns are so crazy like that. Um, there's actually a lot. We had the bloody benders that were like the serial killers of the 1800s. I've done a report on that. Um, I will probably put that on my personal page. Actually, I've already got. See, I have all these things are already finished. I just have to post them. But yes, that's one of the ones that Lansing. Yeah, that's another. Leavenworth, Lansing. And but it's crazy. Like if you start looking into how many things like that, they've made so many movies on serial killers in Kansas, on um crazy, Superman was from here. Well, not from here. Obviously, Superman landed here apparently in the first one. Um, just things like that. Of course, everybody knows the Wizard of Oz, but look at the Wizard of Oz. Even if you start looking into um, the different symbolism and the different meanings and things like that. You had, um, basically like alternate realities or um, even doppelgangers represented in that movie. Little people, witches, flying monkeys, wizards, all kinds of things. So there was a lot going on in The Wizard of Oz if you actually break that down. And most people don't really get that into it unless you're from Kansas and are forced to hear about it and see about it. Even if I go to another state, everybody's talking about The Wizard of Oz or you're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Yes, yes, we get that. I get that a lot. It's annoying. Um, but yes, the prisons here are, and even if I've started in a lot of these small towns. I do a lot of the photography. Um, you get into it, and for instance, Atchison, Kansas, where the Sally House is, and the Pope won't fly over, and then you start getting into it. There's other places there. There's quite a few haunted locations in Atchison, aside from their creepy. I don't think it's that creepy, but there are a lot of really bad things that have happened in this specific forest. Everybody says it's like a fairy forest or a magic forest, and it's not the one. It's not the International Forest of Friendship, although there are a lot of people afraid of that one as well. Um, there's a lot of fairies there, so and like elementals. But of course, you're gonna have there's trees from all over the world. Of course, they're not all gonna be um, the same or the same energy or anything as the ones we have here in the United States. So I love the place, of course, but I'm literally opposite of, I love the monster world. So I'm quite opposite from everyone else, it seems, in that aspect there. But um, it also has one of the oldest, I guess, modern, and by modern I mean like more organized cemetery, Mount Vernon, um, because with most, I guess, towns and villages and such in the Midwestern states, a lot of them just had a really tiny cemetery. Maybe they just buried, their family members and such on their own land. That happened a lot back then. But there were also, aside from like Topeka being the mental health capital of the world, they used to name it, and definitely the United States. I don't know about the world, but I mean, they did name it that. But there were, it's said that there are thousands of bodies buried under the high school in Topeka, where I came from. They said there's many native cemeteries and burial grounds that they just move the headstones. There's Stoll, Kansas, where apparently the witch had slept with the devil, and they had a werewolf hybrid offspring that ran off into the woods, and she was hung on the tree in the churchyard. There's all of these. Um, there's a lot of folklore here. Um, there's a lot of people that believe in it as well. Um, I can tell you myself, the Clutter family murders. I don't know if I'm familiar with that one. Menninger's clinic, yes, I've done a lot of. I was drawn there the first time I ever came to Topeka, and it's hard for me to go there because it's really, really the energy there, the spirits left over there. It's very upsetting. And even back in the day before they closed it off, they left people's personal files there. Just not, it's to me it was no respect. But there's also the state hospital that they've now built some athletic stadiums on. And that one's creepy because even current security, well, most of it's torn up now, but and they built things over them, but even recent security guards for that place still talked about, in the tunnels under these places, they literally still have rings in the walls where they would hold patients. And okay, I have two theories about this. First of all, yes, I mean, yes, they did hold patients um, as a form of punishment to some, as a form of, obviously just keeping them confined and in one place to some of them. But um, I think some of those were as a form of sacrifice, obviously, to the things that are in the tunnels. And everybody that's in Kansas knows, well, I guess if you know, there's something in the tunnels. And that was my theory. That was the first thing I ever thought of when I first moved here, was that's why they chain people to the walls in the tunnels under Topeka. Um, and of course, there's people who have never been to Kansas and have never experienced these things or felt that energy or anything, that would be like, okay, now she's really like, we don't know what you did, Trish, on your vacation or whatever it was, but you're off your rocker this time. No, I'm telling you, like, this is a thing here. And oh yes, I did see that. Uh, but yes, this is a thing. Like, these things happen. You'll hear stories, and it's just normal. It's like an everyday thing now. People just, um, if somebody says, I saw a giant wolf man crossing the road in front of me, everybody believes, like, people are from here anyway, so they're like, oh, okay, that's not abnormal. But somebody from out of state comes here and they're like, that's probably why they wanted to commit us all. Yes. Um, Yes, In Cold Blood. I forgot that that was the name of the family, the Clutter family, which is ironic because um, I saw, I don't know if it was the original or a remake because I don't really watch TV. I ironically at a drive-in theater when I lived in New York. That was one of their they were having a premiere and it was In Cold Blood and it was about that family. And there was like a little documentary that preceded it and that's when I first watched that about the Clutter family. I forgot that was the name of the family, but yes, I have seen that. Um well, one of them anyways because this was just I saw the one at the drive-in probably. No, I take that back. I saw the other one, I believe, in high school or college, which would have been over 20 years ago. Um, but the one at the drive-in, I want to say it was the original, but they just like remade it for the big screen, like for the drive-in, because it wasn't a modern movie at all. Um, but that was about 5 or 6 years ago. So. Um, That's there's so much stuff here, I swear. Um, and another thing, so my daughter and I this is how much if you all wonder why I can't ever get like research or reports or anything posted or done, I'll tell you why, because every day of my life is like this, every single day. There's so many crazy things that happen in my life that um for instance, anyways, my daughter and I went into the woods a few days ago and we both kept getting messages about like an old car actually like a 1956 57 vehicle, right? And and I had drawn one. I have a little a book that I draw in every day with a pencil, um and 99% of the time what I draw ends up happening in the future. So which isn't the one my most recent picture was of a giant snake in a tree. So I don't know. Sometimes it's literal that these things happen, or sometimes it'll be something significant, like I'll see that on the side of a truck or a building or whatever. Anyways, um, I had drawn this old car, and I was like, I don't know. I keep getting that somebody had a car accident or drowned or something, and going into town the next day, we saw where they had pulled this car out of a river, and it was that year, and I was like, wow, I should really start paying attention to this more because this isn't something I've always, as far as the cold cases and the missing persons and stuff, I've always done that, but correlating with the drawing is a new thing. I mean, granted, my art, my photography has always been that way as well, but this I never did this before where I woke up and drew a new picture. So that's something that I might start paying more attention to. Robert Blake in it. I don't I know that movie was so see, I was thinking that oh no, I was thinking of the BTK killer. He's another one. He's another one that is housed at El Dorado prison. Um, um, Dennis Rader. Yeah, so he's in the prison there too. That's another serial killer from Kansas, of course. His the span of his crimes was 74 to 91. Um, and it really is eerie driving down there because if you've ever driven through Kansas, there's like hundreds of miles of nothingness. I mean, Yes. Yeah, that's what I was saying. He's from Wichita. But I totally forgot that he was housed in El Dorado prison as well. So that's and another serial killer in the state. So you have the Bloody Benders, which were those were in the 1800s. You have the Clutter family. Um, when were they? I want to see. In the 50s. Yeah. So it makes you wonder, like what in Kansas, is it something about the land here? Do you think? They used to call it Bleeding Kansas. Um, BTK, is he in Colorado now? Um, I was looking at that. But it makes you wonder if if y- if it's the land or or if it's the people that are drawn here, if do you think it follows the bloodlines that are here? Because a lot of families, um, are a lot of families stay here for entire generation after generation after generation. They stay in the same house, they stay on the same farmland, and they just pass it on to future generations for many of them. And there's not many places in the world that people still, well, I guess in other parts of the world there are some places, but people don't leave Kansas. They don't even leave their hometowns very often. So crap, Kansas, words, thought. Yeah. Um, I just I've never seen a place that, people used to call it the melting pot of the United States. Um, and I think it has more to do with the fact that we don't have all of I mean, we're landlocked for one. You don't have, we don't have oceans here. We don't have large bodies of water. And so just just going by that, just going, if you're thinking in simpler terms of energy and negative and positive energy, things like that, it's like a stagnant um piece of water that doesn't have any flow to it, doesn't have anywhere to go. Kind of like those toilets I had to I had to endure. Um, so so that can create a lot of negative energy. It can also attract negative energy, which I think is why maybe a lot of these things happen. And now out west, I still want to visit the western part of Kansas because they do have um Dodge City. I want to go back there. Um, we have those big rock formations that have now been called. They used to be the Badlands. They were renamed Little Jerusalem a few years ago. So so there's all these things that have happened here. There's all these things that currently go on here. There's been a lot of political figures that were either born or resided here at some time or visited here quite often back in the day. We've had a few presidents. We've had that were from Kansas. We've had gosh, a lot of the Senate and House of Representatives and such were from here. Um, but But if you really start living around these small towns, and it's probably like that in a lot of places. I know in Georgia, when I lived there, it was similar, in a lot of the small towns, but there's shit that happens, like, there's if you're not from there, you should probably worry that, everybody's in like that Reba McEntire song, "That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia and they hung an innocent man and the judge in the town's got blood stains on his hands." I'm pretty sure, like, that happens in most small towns across America. So, um, but it's scary. It's scary traveling through them if you're not from there, and you never know what people. It's always the ones that look so nice, I tell you. Um, it's always the friendly ones. So let's see, we had Carrie Nation. Yes, she was from here as well. The lady that went around putting hatchets in bars um, to display her. She was against alcohol, and it was during the Prohibition era. So that's I used to work at a bar that she actually had come into a long time ago, and was one of the famous. I was like, how is this? And that town alone, I mean, the place itself had burned down like two or three times. There had been, numerous people died there. It's that it was like the whole town was cursed. But more so than that, I really should start like a database on certain crimes and stuff, because the last time what scared me about being attracted to the or being drawn to the missing persons um photos at Walmart that time, the last time I did that, and I specifically remember because I was near Fort Riley, Kansas, and I stopped at a gas station and I saw this girl on the, you know, missing, and that they suspected foul play. She was a soldier there at Fort Riley, and she looked a lot like me, which eerily. And she had been missing. This was like she had been missing since May in the poster. I probably saw the poster in June or July. She wasn't found, I believe, until October. Um, and she was found, it was one of those things where um, she came home, she had spoken to her mom, a friend, someone, and she told them that she was just going to go on a walk, run, whatever. So her cell phone, her keys, her dog, everything was still in her apartment, as if she was coming right back. And I mean, they had huge search parties because, again, this was right outside of Fort Riley, and they couldn't find her. She showed up. Her body was found right behind the apartment complex in October. So we're talking almost 6 months that her body lay there, and because it hadn't been moved since she had been reported missing. And you have to ask, you start to think, well, how's that possible? How could her body be right behind there? I mean, people could literally see it out the window if they wanted to, and nobody discovered it for 6 months. And you hear about these cases all the time. And to me, that's almost like, it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle and things like that, but in the middle of Kansas. It's like this vortex of things like that happen. Um, Because there's no possible way. Yes, I can see if somebody moved her body back there and then they found her. Yes, but that means it would have been disturbed. This body had been there. I don't know how they determined that, but it had been there since the time she was reported missing. So it's one of those things like, is this is there some sort of like portal or something that happened literally? And I remember it because the day they found her, it was at 3:30 in the afternoon on the 300 block, you know, on the 3rd of October, and I was like, 333, like all threes. Um, but right before that, and this has also happened numerous times when things like this happen in my life. And of course, I mean, it showed up differently every time, but it happened with the same entity every time. Right before her body was found, there was I was having a dream about someone knocking on my door going bang bang and like busting through the door. Well, it ended up being this really creepy clown, right? I'm dreaming this. And I remember him just saying bang bang and bust through the door, right? And it was a clown. So I'm dreaming this. My daughter was sleeping with me at the time. She was terrified of the dark back then. She would come and she was sleeping with me. So I'm having the dream. She's shaking me, waking me up, right? I thought she was waking me up because I was having this dream, and I thought maybe, she was worried or what. No. She wakes me up. She goes, "Mama, Mom, do you hear that?" And she's like, I'm gonna go answer it. I was like, whoa, whoa, she was like, I don't know, 4 years old at the time or something, five maybe. And she said, someone said bang bang on the front door. And I was like, holy shit, because my dream just came true. So either I manifested that creepy clown or it's actually happening. And I was having like a clairvoyant moment in my dream that I saw it happening, but I wasn't consciously awake. And so I kept her from doing that. But then this girl was found like the next day. Um, and another time that same thing, well, similar happened, was in New York when I had moved directly across the street because the first house I lived in was the one that had the 9 stabbings throughout history, completely unrelated. And then right near that house, there's a place called Thompson Park, that is now said to there's been tons of people and tons of witnesses to this, that there's like some sort of vortex, portal, whatever on that mountain or, well, hill, I guess, where people will just be walking. There's all kinds of walking trails, and then they're on one side of the hill, right? And there's trails all the way around it, and they'll end up completely on the other one. Like they walked in a door and out another one, but with no time lapse or anything. And they would just end up on a completely other side of the hill. So that was right near there. And that was the one where there was one of the most haunted places I've ever lived in. We actually ended up moving right across the street. Well, right across the street, the first day I moved into that house, I'm literally walking down, and these are New York houses are huge, like multi-family, really old too, and there's a lot of history. And I'm walking in the basement of this house, and I hadn't seen. I thought I had seen the whole basement when I looked at the house and rented it, but I hadn't seen all of it because there was like weird, almost like plastic hanging from the ceilings, like painter's plastic. But it reminded me of the horror movies that you see with like the butchers and like the meat lockers. So I'm on the phone with my mom. I'm telling her, yeah, yeah, this house is great. It's so much better. I haven't had any spirit try to mess with me yet. It doesn't seem haunted. And then I said, now, and like all of a sudden I hear this tink, 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 tink. And I'm like, "What the heck?" I'm, in the basement by myself, this huge basement. And these glass jars are just like dropping one by one down the basement stairs from the ceiling. Heard a bunch of glass jars between like the two different, right between the stairs, um, or the first story and the basement level, between in the space there, they had just stored all these glass jars. And who knows, maybe me walking or whatever, or maybe something pushed them out, I don't know, but they started rolling down the basement stairs, and I'm like, aside from all the weird jars in the floor. um, and then I said, well, now I mean, pretty much the only thing I'm afraid of is clowns. I'm not even kidding when I say as soon as I said that, literally from the ceiling, this picture falls in front of me at my feet. And it's one of those vintage, it's not even a modern picture, it's one of those vintage, like I want to say like 30s, 40s um, clown pictures. And here I'm on the phone. I'm like, just like that. Like, so so a few weeks ago when I was at my parents and I came home and my mom's showing me these old pictures that I had never seen before. And one of them was me dressed as a clown when I was like, I don't know, like 6 or 7. And then, of course, you all see the one, the creepy clown of my that was from a few years ago that I did that photo shoot. Um, but every time I've seen that, there's been, something preceded, it's like some sort of chaos. Um, and so that's every time. The, but there's been numerous occasions that that shows up, that there's like someone's been murdered or something's happened or something that I'm supposed to get involved in to help someone, and where does it end? Maybe that's my purpose, chasing creepy clown killers. And speaking of which one of the my gosh, what serial killer was it with the clown now? I know one of you know this. Pop quiz. Aside from the Joker. Yes. I have no idea. Yes, thank you. Thank you. See, Raymond, I did. I swear I had. Oh no, I think I'm frozen. Am I frozen? Maybe. Okay, I'm back. I was frozen. Oh no, no. Yes, yes. That's probably why it says I'm back. Yes, I didn't even think about that, but yes, maybe I went in some one of these weird. Maybe I got caught in one of those weird time warp things for a while. Disappeared, just dropped off. No, I'm like that. Like I'm one of those people that um I don't know. I like adventure, and I just have to recalibrate sometimes, especially when like I do get a lot of things happen in my life. Right before I moved, I was almost in the crossfire of a drive-by shooting for that matter. Um, so sometimes I do have to take take a break, but this time it wasn't actually planned. I actually had to reschedule guests that I was supposed to have on and such because I wasn't planning on like literally like dropping off the face of the earth for a while. But I mean, it kind of worked out because I was shadow banned anyway. So maybe that's a way of my ancestors saying like, hey, you need to, kind of take a step back for a minute and get your shit together because there's a lot of really bad things out there that might need you in the future to, I don't know, build an army of Avengers or something. I'm not sure what my purpose is, but um, that's what there's a lot of things that go on in this crazy world, and I oh, another thing. Um, which people find absolutely crazy, is my internet. Like, oh, I was telling someone today, my pets, the same thing, like they're not normal pets, they're literally like my familiars because one time at my old house, I come home, I'm swear to God, like I even took pictures of this. I don't know where it came from. Um my computer was I had taken my little dog. My big dog was in her kennel, which she prefers when during storms and stuff. And it's huge. She went in there by herself, but she was in her kennel because there was a storm. I took my little dog with me, and then my cats were at home. Well, I noticed my computer was still on, and it was open to Amazon. I'm like, that's weird. You know, a few days later, I get a case of fancy salmon, a case. It was like 36 cans of fancy salmon in the mail. Shows up on my doorstep. And I'm not even kidding when I say my cats were waiting for it. So either one of them ordered it without me knowing, or they've got friends in other places because first of all, I've never bought this kind of I've bought salmon before, like in cans, but usually like the taller ones, and it's been a long, long time. Um, but this was like the flip top, like fancy, expensive salmon and a whole case of it. And I wouldn't I can't say that I've ever done that. So and it's not even something that I would search for on the internet or on Amazon or anywhere else. And so I'm like, really? Did you all just order a case of salmon? Like who does that? It was like $90. Um and so so that happens quite often with my animals, right? Um things like that anyways. Now see when we were staying at hotels, none of them you didn't hear a peep from any of my animals. They probably thought that, and transition does that a lot with animals, like with pets. They think that if you move, it disrupts their entire um, routine and everything else. And a lot of times they probably thought that they're like, nobody say a word because like we might get left here and I would never ever do that, but you don't if you leave for 5 minutes, well at least my animals they I might as well have been gone a whole week to them. So um so so that was interesting. So I had the same thing at the old house. Now my but they loved it. They absolutely love traveling. I think I actually wanted to there's been certain investigations I've gone on that I was kind of I wanted to take one of my pets for one reason or another. Like when I went to the Sally house, I wanted to take Thor, my Bengal cat. And I didn't know why when I was going there. I had never been there before, didn't know that much about it. Um, and I just wanted to take him for some reason. I'm like, why did I want to bring Thor? Well, when I got there, there was actually a spirit cat that I was interacting with that that kind of pointed out this giant blood s- like blood stain in the carpet that had been covered up that I still haven't I still haven't returned um, to all of my Atchison studies, and there's a reason for that because literally everything I put together from that entire town would it's amazing. It would blow your mind as far as the stuff that's gone on there. And I need to go back to be able to take more pictures and such. So um but yeah, as far as my other animals, another thing, my daughter and I were when we were out in the woods, um it was about 2 days before a bear crossed the road in front of me. And this was a bear. It wasn't a cow. It wasn't a deer. It had thicker fur. It was, probably, I don't know, like 3.5, 4 feet tall, but it walked a lot slower and had a lot wider um I guess, gait than other like deer or anything else. And so most people around here would be like, "No way, no way. There aren't bears there." Um, but then when we were out during the day, we found footprints. Um, and since I grew up in the mountains, I know what bear footprints look like. I know what they sound like. I know um, what kind of marks they leave on trees, everything like that. And so, but I'm like, why me? Why am I always like, I'm always the only one that sees any of this stuff? I mean, I usually have, like, if I have people with me, they do too, but it never happens to anyone else. Like, it's not normal s- daily things that should happen. Um, but yeah, that's my friends, my family have become very accustomed to it, because it does happen with me all the time, like all the time. Just like the hotels not being able to find one, and maybe I wasn't meant to stay in any of those hotels, but sometimes, oh yes, they are not bears are not native to Kansas. But with global warming and stuff, all of the lower states are becoming much warmer than they ever have been in the past. I don't want to say ever. I mean, I'm sure thousands of years ago it was at one point. But since the Earth goes in these cycles, the temperatures are rising through the states. So those lower states, um, as well as some of the upper ones, aren't as cold as they used to be. That means, like in Kansas, we used to have really bad winters. We used to have blizzards and ice storms and everything. I mean, even in my lifetime, even 20, 30 years ago. And so that isn't happening as much anymore. The past few winters have been fairly mild. It stopped snowing around really bad, anyways, around the beginning of April, and or sometimes even earlier. Um, and so I think those are all affecting. It's the same reason we see jaguars, and um, they've had I think a lot of people confuse the panthers and the jaguars though, because you can't see the jaguar spots at night. But um, regardless, um, I think it was just last year that they reported that someone hit a bear on the road south of Topeka, which would be unheard of any other time. And then you do have the government that does things like they thought the deer population was out of control in Kansas, so they released a lot of mountain lions. Great idea, right? Because I mean, it, mountain lions only eat deer. They wouldn't also eat cows. um Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, yes. So then when that didn't work out as planned, um, we do have, there's Arkansas, Missouri, southern parts of Missouri that are heavily wooded, um, even the very, very southern parts of Kansas. And then we have Colorado to the west, which so they could obviously migrate, um, especially since there's more and more people populating places like Colorado that didn't used to be that way. Um, but yes, to see that is actually very rare where I'm at. But as I said, these things always, like the panther that crossed the road in front of me, uh, probably weekly when I used to come from home from work in the middle of the night. And then other people finally started seeing it, and that was unheard of. But it happened all the time to me. Um, Yeah, so things like I said, I don't know if Kansas attracts these things. I don't know if it's something definitely to look into though, of why here, because there's nothing else here. I mean, there's not significant, there's a lot of farms. I apologize. My dog's she's she's not happy. She's she's in a different place, but um so yeah, that's something that I wanna go back through the old newspaper archives because they're so interesting. They actually used to put things like that. So and so, Farmer John spotted a panther on his land, and they put the dates. So now that a lot of newspapers are online, just in the last few years, it's really interesting to look those things up. I know, I did a crazy, newspaper story a long time ago, but I want to do a more focused one, like on specific sightings like that, um, that I've come across, or specific things that are just weird. Like I've come across tons of different um, crimes that have been described in the newspaper that you're like, wait a minute, that's not like that's got to be a red flag when they're talking about, the person turned into a demon and um, their eyes turned black, something like that, and they started killing everyone. Okay. Well, nowadays, that's more believable than ever because it happens so frequently. So so then it makes you wonder with all of the asylums that used to be here, the mental institutions, were half of those people, or maybe, most of them, afflicted by other things just by default by being in Kansas? Were they afflicted by things? Um, for instance, something as simple as like I've never had allergies in my entire life until I moved to Kansas. I've never had allergies when I'm not in Kansas for that matter, when I'm in other states, only here. It's specific to here. Well, there are things that allergies can make people hallucinate, do all these. I'm not saying that I do that because I've had these abilities in other states too. But I'm saying just for instance, the people that were all in these asylums, it makes you wonder if this was something that if they were all being afflicted by um uh, what if it was different forms of possession? What if it was different um things like that. Um because it's so common here. Um it makes you wonder. So armadillos. Oh, I know. I remember armadillos were only I would only see them when I drove south towards like Texas and New Mexico. Oh, Osawatomie, yes. I had never heard of that, never been there before. Um, and my experience with Osawatomie, that's another one I gotta go back to someday. But um I drove straight to it and immediately walked to this empty swimming pool in the old part. There's old buildings, but there's still some newer ones that are still in service. And I immediately walked to the old part. I walked to a swimming pool that was empty, of course, and I walked to directly. I mean, I have pictures of it. Something led me because there were little signs all the way to um, the cover, which would lead probably to the filter system, whatever the underground waterworks and stuff to this pool area. And there was a lock on it that was broken. And then all of a sudden, I was seeing all these people who obviously it was spirits people, um, in the windows of the old buildings and stuff. And that place is so hard for me because there's so many things that were done to people there that still go on to this day because that's actually a working hospital still. And the thing is, if you start reading about it, you don't see it anymore, but if you start reading about it, you see where, and nobody bats an eye, like nobody pays attention to this apparently. You see where just within the past 10 or so years, there'll be somebody say, my wife, um, husband, whoever family member went in because they due to like suicide tendencies or things like that, and they were only supposed to be admitted for a specific amount of days or go through treatment or whatever, and then the family members and the person themselves they can't ever get back out. They can't get themselves out. But nobody pays attention to that. You see it in papers all the time. You see the reviews of people that were there in the past and the horrible things that they said. And on top of that, the one thing, only because it affects me a lot, as far as power grids, um, that I found interesting, that's right between their main offices and the patient part of the hospital, is there's a power grid like attached to the building. You would think that that wouldn't be very healthy for anyone there. So that's one of the main things there. I know there's a lot to be discovered there. One of my friends actually has gone there quite a few times at night, and of course, even when I was there, you get chased off almost immediately by these unmarked white vans, of course. So it's kind of hard to navigate through there. You can't. I wasn't able to get to where they have a cemetery of the graves aren't marked; they're numbered, which happen a lot during those times at institutions. But um, I do need to go back there. It's a hard place. It's overwhelming as far as the pain and the emotion that went on there. So Texas and yes, Texas and New Mexico definitely. But it has been so I'm gonna research more of those things. I'm leaving my website up oh, up here because I have been working a lot of that. I've written, again, my writing is so much more organized in my thought process than my words, obviously. So I actually, sometimes sound intelligent when I write and do research in like scientific journals and such. So um I will be fixing that soon. Thank you all for joining me. It's been wonderful being back. And next week, Michael Tamira, um, are you a physical medium or a psychic? Both actually. Yeah, I get messages both way. It depends on the place. Like, shoot, um, sight, smell, hearing, all of it. Sometimes I start feeling physically the way a person died, or w- um whatever was wrong with them. I do that with the living too. So that's a thing, like, but in some of these cemeteries it's hard because I'll just walk through the cemetery and I'll feel like I was shot in the head, or but at the same time I'll feel like I got stabbed, and in the like rib cage or something, and then I'll feel like I broke a leg, and it all happens at once. So it's kind of difficult, um, being so sensitive to those things. Um, but yeah, that's if there's any of these stories that you all would like me to actually cover in greater detail, or even I'm going to start going to some of the sites, I guess, live. I've never done that. I usually, just do them on my own, but I could do some lives at on location. It couldn't be necessarily on this channel, but I could do it on my other, on my own channel. Because I love traveling, and I love photographing the places and the architecture and everything. So I do want to do more of that in the future. But we are out of time. Thank you all for joining me tonight. And we will be back next week at my new time from 9 to 11 p.m. Central Time. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night. You can email me at themissingpeacewithtrish at gmail.com if you would like to be on my show or you have a story idea. And my dog says it's time to go. So good night, everyone. Thank you for watching.